Welcome to Slice of Lime, a podcast by and for Lime Warriors, where we share truth, resilience, and hope, one episode at a time. We are not doctors, and this is not medical advice, just real stories and what's worked for us on our own journeys. Today's episode is brought to you by Tickmit. This eco-friendly and non-toxic reusable glove helps to find and remove loose ticks from pets and yourself. If you're hiking, walking, or just hanging out outside, Tickmit is a must. Use code SLICE, S-L-I-C-E, for 10% off.
Welcome back to Slice of Lime. I'm your host today. Me and Callie are joined by Tiffanie Miner Hannaford, holistic health coach, trauma-informed medicine woman for the modern day nervous system, who recently completed her practical exams for spinal energetics. After being sick for years, Tiffanie was able to overcome numerous autoimmune conditions. However, she is currently being treated for Bartonella after being bit by a cat. Bartonella is a common co-infection that many of us with Lyme disease are being treated for. Tiffanie has been working on deep diving on ways to support her nervous system and her body through recovery, and has noticed huge improvements in her symptoms. So Tiffanie, we were just talking before we started recording about your backstory a little bit. And so I just want to kind of jump in and look at your autoimmune journey and how you were able to overcome these conditions you were diagnosed with. And so let's start way back there and fill us in a bit.
Okay. Definitely, I would say 2011, I started having very strange digestive issues. At the time, I had 3 young children. My husband's a quadriplegic and I'm his caregiver. I own a small business. Let's just say stress was high and doctors were blaming it on that. I was just stressed out. I went about a year of that, all of like imaging, fecal testing, everything was normal, and I just kept getting dismissed. September of 2012, my father passed away tragically on his way to work. And that I truly believe was the catalyst for the trauma response that I speak so loudly about on my platform. It took me about 5 years for me to put 2 and 2 together that my nervous system was so dysregulated. It wasn't just that my father passed away. There was a very complex relationship between the siblings and my mom, who my parents had a very nasty divorce that lasted over 10 years. And I'm the oldest of 4. And when my dad died, things got really ugly, and I was the estate manager. So I did not grieve my father for about 2 years because I was so busy entertaining everyone else's bullshit. And the symptoms that I was having in 2011 just blew up. It turned into fecal bleeding. I was down to 97 pounds. I couldn't keep anything on. And again, the doctors were very much, this is a stress response. And I would say from 2013 to 2015, that's when I started noticing my hair was falling out in clumps, like round bald spots everywhere. My eyebrows completely fell out. I was having heart palpitations, fainting, which I now know was dysautonomia. I was just having a wide range of symptoms. I will say, and this is a piece I don't talk a lot about, but I did have breast implants put in December of 2013. But there wasn't like an uptick of symptoms. It just was this steady increase of just like where I was at. So I kept struggling. I mean, I was in and out of hospitals, emergency rooms. There were times that I thought I was having a heart attack. I remember vividly, I couldn't get a hold of my husband, and I made a decision to drive myself to the hospital instead of calling an ambulance. And I got there, and they ran a bunch of, cardiac panels, and they said everything was normal. And my husband got there, and I was in the bed, but the doctor was not speaking to me. He was speaking to my husband, and without like muting his voice or trying to make it like that I couldn't hear him, it was like, I really think she needs some Xanax. This is getting out of control. She's overusing the system. And my husband turned to me and said, maybe we should try it. And that was my pivotal, no one believes me. I know that my body is sick and no one believes me. My husband doesn't even believe me. And that was where I went into a really deep, dark depression. I was suicidal. I talked very loudly about being suicidal. My daughter having my first grandbaby was probably the only thing that kept me like semi going at that point. 2017 was my formal diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And it was really I think he just was trying to entertain the fact that I wasn't giving up, of trying to figure out what was wrong with me, that's what he labeled me with, because I think fibromyalgia is a real bullshit Band-Aid diagnosis. I think it's chronic regional pain syndrome. And I think if you look at it from a trauma response, from clinical studies of what the body's natural mechanism of trauma turns into chronic pain. That's what happens. Our muscles get tense, our nervous system gets out of just feeling safe and into this protective mode, and every tissue, organ, muscle in our body tenses. And so I started taking gabapentin. That was the first drug they gave me. I ended up on 3,800 milligrams of gabapentin a day. It was one of 18 pills I was on at my sickest that I took daily, and that was the hardest drug to get off of. I ended up back in the emergency room that same year in 2017, having chest pain. And again, my labs were normal. They just ran basic like CBC infection type things. And they told me to follow up with my primary. And the next week I had an appointment with my primary. My primary called out sick, and I just happened to have a nurse practitioner fill in. And she walked in the door and she said, "Girl, you've been through it, haven't you?" And I'm like, "I absolutely have. Have you actually read my records?" And she said, "I literally have been sitting here for 2 hours reading your file this morning. Why hasn't anyone run autoimmune panels on you?" And that was the beginning of diagnosis. And I ended up being diagnosed with, within 3 months, lupus, RA, mixed connective tissue disorder, and then the following year, Sjogren's and Raynaud's. And this is something that I talk a lot about, that there is this really fine line of finally feeling relief when you get labeled or diagnosed, because you feel like you have hope to take a medicine that's going to fix you or at least make you better.
100%.
Right? So we stop like even trying to look for alternatives, because the doctors must know all of the answers. But my experience was I was so medically gaslit for so long, and no one listened to me, and they only wanted to shove pill after pill after pill down my throat, that those diagnoses, I feel, were the worst thing that happened to me, because I turned into someone I wasn't from all of the medications that then required more medications to combat the side effects of those medications.
Yeah.
And it just turned into this mess. I've been a pet groomer since I was 16, and I had to close my salon because I couldn't function. I shouldn't have been driving because of all the medicine I was on. And it just so happened to be 3 months before COVID shutdown happened. And I truly believe that it was a blessing. I closed my storefront. I was forced to be in solitude. I was forced to listen to what my body was saying. So it was this pause in, what is your body actually wanting from you right now? What is it telling you? And I did get COVID in September of 2020 that turned into COVID long haulers for 16 months. But I really think that was because I was on so many immunosuppressants and chemo drugs at that point, that my body just couldn't fight what was happening. And COVID saved my life. It wasn't the medicine. It wasn't the doctors. It wasn't the diagnosis. It was that I had to stop and listen and feel my own feelings and what my body was trying to tell me, And that was the awakening of not only the death of my father, but the really shitty upbringing that we went through of just abuse among parents because they couldn't get their shit together, that changed the way my body viewed safety. And anytime an infection or bacteria or anything you think of negative came in or around my body, it viewed it as I was susceptible because I was weak. My body wasn't capable of feeling safe to say I could conquer that. If you look at it, in a hypothetical sense, right? Um, so I got through COVID long haulers through functional medicine. I took very targeted ivermectin that was compounded for me. I was very targeted and correct dosage, and it was all formulated for me. And I took some herbs and high dose quercetin. And within 10 days after being sick for 16 months, I was completely better in terms of COVID long haulers.
That's amazing.
I
What
have
herbs
chills.
did they yeah, I know. What herbs did they make you take? Because I have long
Um,
COVID and I'm still like battling it, but I'm better like doing holistic stuff like herbs and trying to
yeah.
grounding and working on my nervous system. But I'm curious what herbs you did.
Yeah. So I did Pau d'Arco for my gut microbiome. I did take strains of bacteria. I was doing dandelion root and burdock root, like a lot of liver flushing. Um, I really like, as an intuitive, I really think it was the ivermectin. That's what I feel like my body needed. That may not be the answer for other people, but it was every day I started getting better. In retrospect, they're showing us that COVID completely disrupts your gut microbiome and bacterial balance, and it causes leaky gut. And that allows inflammatory cytokines to release into your bloodstream. So if whatever someone is choosing to take, I think it needs to be also as important to support your gut microbiome and healing and sealing leaky gut junctions. So, you know, aloe and marshmallow root and glutamine, different things are going to restore your gut lining was very helpful. And just changing up what is happening in your gut microbiome alongside those things was really helpful for me. And that was also a huge part of overcoming autoimmunity. Huge was the immune modulating strains of bacteria.
With the ivermectin, I've heard recently like how well it's been doing with other people with long COVID. And there was a doctor on Joe Rogan's podcast recently who said she prescribes it to like her patients with long COVID. And yeah, it's interesting what's out there now and like what can help us. And there's not many doctors that are using it.
No, no. I was still being cared for by neurology, rheumatology, and cardiology for autoimmunity when I was choosing to go the functional medicine route for COVID. And because COVID attacked the occipital nerve in my brain, I lost vision on the left side, hearing on the left side. I was all pins and needles on the left side of my face. I was walking with a cane. Just a lot of neurological stuff was happening. And they they were just trying to give me more nerve blockers, increasing the gabapentin, um, more physical therapy type things than they were like trying to understand the root of what is the mechanism that's creating this inflammation that we're seeing in our CT scan. How can we reduce the inflammation? And no one was addressing that. And it really was addressing the inflammation was why I went to the functional medicine doctor. And that was the first thing she said was, we need to get you on ivermectin. And my rheumatologist was like, don't take that. It's going to disrupt what we're doing with your care, with your pharmaceuticals. It triggered this gaslighting experience all over again, this fear mongering that I was hurting myself by using an alternative form of medication. And it saved my life. There's a time and a place for Western medicine, but there's also a time and a place for holistic care. And if we could all just collaborate together with the thought process that we're helping other humans, and that one size is not going to fix everybody. We have, like, each person's body has a different root cause, and what
Yeah,
worked for me may not work for you, and vice versa.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that we see, like, I'm no expert here, but in my opinion, I think Western medicine is very good emergency medicine, but it's extremely siloed out, and we don't look at the human body as like a whole, right? We see it and we're like, this is the whole human, but we're not looking at it as a whole system.
Yeah.
And so it makes it very difficult. But I'm curious to know, so you started the ivermectin and then you started seeing improvements pretty quickly. So talk to me, or talk to us about what that looked like for you.
I would say my experience with ivermectin and the experience with the functional medicine doctor gave me a feeling of hope for the first time in that entire decade-long fight. It opened my eyes that my body was capable of healing after I had been heard or been told that I was going to be sick for the rest of my life. And I think, as a person living with autoimmunity and having a husband who's a quadriplegic and has limited lung function, the amount of fear that was residing in our home because of COVID and what could happen to us, we literally closed ourselves off from the world. Yes, that was a wonderful thing for our marriage and our self-development and spiritual healing, but it also created this false sense of your body is not capable to get past anything. And experiencing the ivermectin, this just light came off inside of me that I'm like, Tiffanie, you need to take your life back. And it was that following January that I decided to get my breast implants out. And then I started my solo journey. And I know I wouldn't have ever made those two decisions if I hadn't had that experience. I stuck with my functional medicine doctor for that probably 15 months, because I was hopeful that she was going to be able to help me with autoimmunity, but I don't think she believed she could. I don't think she believed that that was an option. I think it was more of, I'm here to help support your body with symptoms while you live with autoimmunity. And my goal was, I really think that I cannot live with autoimmunity. I think that my body can overcome this. And so I stuck with her for a little while. And then my husband and I, so sorry, June of 2021 was when I got my breast implants out. The two things that changed with that was my eyes went back to my hazel eyes that I've had, my whole life. And then my hair went back to dark brown and it started growing. And I could breathe. I felt like I could take a deep breath and I didn't have like an elephant sitting on my chest. But then about
Yeah,
three
that's the
months,
worst feeling.
yes, yeah. And I'm sure it was the weight of the implants, but I also think I did have leakage and mold in one of them. And I know it was impacting pleurisy that I had been diagnosed with. I think there was just this you think about a woman and the woman's heart center. And that is like our greatest gift to the world is our heart center. And I had two toxic bags encasing them. And taking that away, I think that was a big pivotal point of my spiritual journey. It's very hard to describe it, but an awakening. You talk about, before we started recording, Abby, how you were kind of having communication through a dream. And that is how I felt. My body was finally able to talk to me. I took this garbage out of my body, and my body was like, oh, hey, you're listening now. Let me tell you some things. And I started feeling a little bit better. And then about 3 months in, I started feeling really crummy again. And that was hard because I thought, like, I didn't think breast implant was the answer, or breast implant illness was the answer or the reason why I was sick, because I was sick for 4 years prior to them anyway, for 3 years.
Right.
But I kind of had some hope that, because there was a lot of talk about BII at that time, that was going to be the answer for me. And it wasn't. And then my husband and I were in a rollover car accident that December. It was New Year's Eve. And talk about life flashing before your eyes moment, and he was completely helpless. And I was literally on the floor of the car holding him up in the air until fire and paramedics came. And I just said to him, I don't know what the fuck we're doing with our life, but this is not working. And that very next day, I started my protocol, and it was blindly. Like, I wasn't certified with anything at that point. I hadn't gone to school for anything at that point. I was just like, my body does not want all these medications. My body is telling me it doesn't want all of these things. What are we doing? And January 1st, 2022, I just started working on my gut first. Started changing my diet. I started reading up on leaky gut. And when my labs started changing in March, like CRP and sed started improving, my ANA, the teeter started getting lower and lower and lower. And then by May, it was May 15th of 2022, my dsDNA and my ANA were no longer positive or active on my blood work. And that's when I went back to school. I was like, if I can do this to my body and I can learn more about what I actually did and how I can help other people, then I'm going to do it. And then by August 29th of that year, I was off all 18 medications. And I haven't looked back. I just keep learning. I just keep feeling I don't know that I don't want to say I've never been a learner, like that feeling that you just want to learn more. But ever since this happened to me, I just want to keep learning more and more about why the body does what it does, so I can help people understand what their root cause is. I have so many people that comment on my videos that are like, well, what did you take? What did you do? And I don't like sharing that because I don't want someone to just go on Amazon and buy 5 things that I took and then get discouraged that they're not feeling better, when really maybe they just need to work on their gut, but they have a really strong trauma response and they need spinal energetics, or they need to start stepping into their gifts and listening to what their guides and their bodies are telling them, and stop stuffing down what they've been holding down deep within them all of these years, right?
What does your diet look like? Are you gluten-free, dairy-free?
When I started that journey, this was back in 2021, I was vegan and I wasn't eating gluten. And I will say that I was an unhealthy vegan. I had created such a fear around food because I had developed mast cell activation during that time that anything and everything was triggering my body. So I would put food in my mouth and immediately my mind would say, get ready. You're either going to be in the bathroom in 5 minutes or you're going to break out into hives everywhere. So although I was vegan, I was hypercritical on what I was eating and not believing that a healthy food was healing me. I thought I was afraid of it. And then through my journey of going through integrative training, integrating functional nutrition coaching training, I was learning about the mechanisms of both herbs and plant medicine and what different plants do to your body. And I started trusting that, say when I eat this pineapple, which most people are told are going to be a high trigger for mast cell activation, I'm actually helping my digestion. So I was actually putting the piece of what this food was doing, and I was talking to it quite literally like a crazy person and thanking it for the purpose that I know it served while I was eating it. And I changed the dialogue of this interaction that I was having with my food. And over
It's
the
amazing.
yeah, I mean, if I think even when I have people come to me that say they have when people come to me and they're on a bunch of medications and their goal is to get off of medications, I don't encourage that. I say, let's support your body holistically first. Let's start allowing your body to feel safe. And then under the guidance of your medical team, we can slowly titrate down, right? But we want to support your body first. And say we get that person to that point and they have a flare up, or say they, for example, maybe get strep or they get some kind of gut infection, food poisoning, and we really do need to bring some kind of medication into the mix. There's such this complex because we've worked so hard to get off of them that I'm hurting the progress that I just made with this holistic journey. I will tell people, when you take that antibiotic, You're going to thank it for the job that it's doing when you put it in your mouth. And then when you take this digestive enzyme or this herb that I want you to take with it, we're thanking it for protecting the bad that this antibiotic might do to your body. It's all about communicating this innate wisdom that your body has, that it's not just, I took this pill and I'm putting this pill in my body and it's just going to do what it. No, we need to have like this dialogue of what is it doing, thanking it, thanking your body for the gifts that it has, the capabilities that it has. And that is transformational.
I'll sit there like, eating breakfast or something. I'd be like, I'm so grateful for this nourishing meal that's going to help heal my body, or going to help, like, whatever kind of feels like going to help regulate me today, or going to energize me. Like, I don't know, whatever kind of the vibe is for the day. But I do make like just a little mental note. Like, I'm just so grateful for this food that's going to whatever.
That's what I need to do. I have MCAS right now. I'm pretty sure it's like from the Lyme disease, and then my body is still in fight or flight. So I need to work on communicating like positive things, like the food's not going to kill me, even though like right now I am going anaphylactic sometimes. So it's hard to get over that fear of food.
Yeah, it's a huge piece. And I think for you, just from my standpoint, I think it would be really well serving to your body to dive deeper into the somatic healing and the energy component of things, and allow your body to feel more safe and less reactive. So when you are bringing in these other components of healing, it is more accepting to what you're offering the body, from my perspective.
Agreed.
Yeah, I need to work on it for sure.
Yeah.
It's tough. So Tiffanie, you made all this progress. You were off medication for the autoimmune diseases and those diagnoses. And then recently this year, you were bit by a cat. And so you've been treating Bartonella. And so I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for that. But I also want to dive into some energy work. And so, but let's look at Bartonella, because I have been really following your journey in treating that recently. And I'm interested to hear how that's been going.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was kind of triple fold. I'm not saying that if the two previous incidences didn't happen and the cat still bit me, that I wouldn't have gotten Bartonella. I still think I would have. But we had an incident where our family dog tried to go after my grandkids, and I got in the middle of it and got significantly bit. And then we tried to make all the correct decisions and ultimately decided with behavioral euthanasia. And everyone in my house was upset that I was the victim of said bite. It was a very complex emotional trauma response. That did I make the right decision? I made everyone in my house suffer. I'm making everyone sad. It was a lot of guilt, a lot of shaming coming back up that I had worked so hard on. And then 3 weeks exactly after that, my husband and I traveled to go to a rugby tournament, and we both got norovirus. And it took me 3 weeks to get over that. And I was so frustrated. Like, my gut was a wreck. And I was still dealing with the grief part of that. And I can tell you, honestly, I was not honoring my body by acknowledging the trauma response that I was having. I was trying to push through and just deal with a norovirus. And I wasn't addressing, maybe you are having such a hard time getting over norovirus because from the mind gut body connection, your gut is a mess from what just happened to your family. And then 2 weeks after that, I got bit by the cat. And my finger was bit all the way through. This was all the way through from my dog, these two. And then the cat bit me right here. So everything was in this arm. And if we talk about this, kind of going off the woo side of things, but if we talk about your female side and your male side, and my father wounds on this side of losing my dad, It brought up so much shit for me that I was not expecting. And through my work in shamanism, and I'm in my second year of shaman training, my shaman was like, Tiffanie, don't you think that this is all coming up on that side of your body because you're finally in a place that you can work through it and you couldn't work through it 6 years ago? Maybe this all happened because it's forcing you to stop doing for others and teaching others and helping others heal, that it's time for you to actually work on the underlying stuff that you talk so loudly about. And that was a big, like, you are right. So about 4 days after the cat bite, I got the very traditional red line, red spotches all over my arm. I went in, they gave me antibiotics. Again, that was a mind thing because I had just tried to treat myself for norovirus. And so I deep dived into, we are just going to work on Tiffanie. I stopped posting on social media for those that were following me. Like, I was very transparent. I need to take care of me. I'm not doing 3 to 5 videos a day. I will try my best to come on here once a week. And my body needed that. My mental health needed that. And so I started the same leaky gut protocols that I did with autoimmunity. And I started doing that for 30 days. And I noticed about 4 weeks in that I was gaining weight and I was super tired. Like, it reminded me of lupus days. Like, I would get off work and I would fall asleep on the couch. I couldn't make dinner. I was not functioning. And I was like, Jeremy, there's something wrong. I will say, I was getting visions of cats. I kept getting visions of cats and I wasn't listening to them. And I went to one of my shaman circles, my shaman training, and I was like, Holly, who's my shaman, I keep getting these visions of cats and I just I'm not understanding what is happening. Like, what am I missing? And she said, Tiffanie, you have cat scratch fever. And I'm like, I got bit by a cat. Why am I overlooking this? And that very next week I went to my doctor. I said, can you run Bartonella panel? And he ran for just 1 of the 7 and it came back negative. So I went to my functional medicine doctor. I said, I need you to run like an in-depth panel for me. And that's when I found out for sure that I had Bartonella. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I know what it is. I know what's happening within my body. At that point, I was 21 pounds higher. I just felt like I was full of inflammation. And my goal at that point was to figure out where the tired was coming from, because my gut was telling me that I was struggling with fatigue because of Bartonella. I felt like something was wrong. And from the perspective of shamanism and being intuitive and listening to your spirit team and your guides, I started writing every morning. I started waking up every morning and I would free write in my journal. I had no idea what the heck I was writing. I was just writing. And every day I was doodling butterflies in my journal. And again, I kept asking my team, what does this mean? What am I doing? And that's when I messaged my rheumatologist, who I hadn't talked to in 3.5 years. I said, this is going to sound really crazy, but I think I have thyroid issues. Can you please run some Hashi's panels? And sure as heck, it came back. My thyroid levels were insane. And that's when we found out that Bartonella had attacked my thyroid and I developed Hashimoto's. And I had a moment of about 2 weeks where I was a hot mess and very upset and angry. And I did all of this work for what? I did all of this work for what? And then I was like, I did all of this work to show me that I know I can get over this too. And so that was my pivot. And how I've been treating it. Again, I am not telling people to do what I'm doing. I'm just saying what I did and what worked for me. I get weekly stem cell injections directly into my thyroid. That has been really hard. I get really, really tired the day of, but I feel a difference with my energy. I get rectal ozone therapy, and that has been amazing for me. both from the fatigue standpoint, but more the brain fog. Like I was forgetting everything and anything, and post-it notes were all over the place because I just couldn't remember anything. And I'm taking a NAD supplement that I never took NAD before. Um, I am taking a spore biotic. I'm taking chlorella. I am doing another set of my vital reset cleanse. I've been doing 1 month on, 1 month off. I am taking Japanese knotweed and hawthorn berry and cat's claw. That's what I'm taking. And I am 17 pounds down. This has been over the last 8-ish weeks that I've lost that weight. I'm just walking every day is all I've been doing. I know that my body does not want strenuous exercise right now. It needs rest. And so I do meditation and stretching, and I get on my vibration plate, and sometimes I just lay. I just lay down on my grounding mat and I just be. And that feels right for me. Like the somatic piece feels right for me. And I feel where I was before the cat bite and the dog bite. I feel physically in the same body that I was then. I have not retested any Bartonella anything. I know it's there, and I don't feel the need to do any lab testing. I have retested my thyroid now twice. They've been testing it monthly, and my labs have improved. They're still activated. But my thyroid antibodies were, oh my goodness, 4,100 at the first testing. And the last one I was at 1,250. I will say this is part of the spinal energetics piece. That was part of, aside from the butterfly visions that I was getting, I had this huge sensation that something was stuck in my throat all the time. And I was having like a bulge out the one side of my throat. And I don't have that anymore. But that stopped. That went away after my spinal energetics training up in Canada. And I can talk about that experience if you want me to, but it really solidified that somatic healing, energy healing, releasing old trauma patterns in your body should be part of everyone's protocol.
Agreed. I definitely agree. I'm curious to know, so this current protocol that you're on, did you work with a functional medicine doctor to come up with that? Or that's something you tuned in with your body and you're like, I feel like I need these things, like this is what's speaking to me?
Yes, I created that protocol on my own based on my training and based on tapping into what my body was telling me. And when I say body, I also mean my team and my gifts, my guides and my team that I confide in. And when I meet with people, if they give me the authorization to do energy assessment on them and to tap into their guides, I do the same thing. And that's how I get targeted with people. Um, I've had times where I've been in session with someone and I all of a sudden start feeling like I need to clear my throat, or I get really heavy chest pain, or I'll start getting pain in my hands. Very specific body areas that I would never say to someone, have you had a heart attack? Or do you have a thyroid condition? But I will say, have you had your thyroid tested? Or I really think you should go to your doctor and get a cardiac panel done. Just certain things like that, that messages come across to me, but I would never diagnose someone based on them. But I help lead someone in the direction to make sure we don't have other things going on. And then sometimes I can get very clear on whether I see a plant while I'm on a call with someone that I'm like, ooh, they need that in their life. And we'll start working with it that way. But the stem cell injection, I had been reading a lot on stem cell injections for co-infections. And I was like, I know that my provider offers that. I never had received it before. I did receive ozone therapy from her for chronic pain when I was dealing with RA many years ago. But it wasn't rectally, it was through an IV. And I would sit there for a couple hours and get ozone therapy through an IV. but she was like, because you're having so much inflammatory tissue response right now, I think we should do it rectally. And then, like I said, directly putting the stem cells into my thyroid. And it's intense. It is a very uncomfortable procedure. But with the first injection, I noticed a difference. If someone has that capability and has a thyroid issue, and they have a practitioner in their area, I highly recommend educating yourself on it and really listening if that's the correct option for you, because it's awesome stuff.
Can you tell us more about your intuitive side and
Yes.
like spiritual guides and stuff like that? Because I don't know anything about that stuff, but I'm like very interested in all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier on, I've known since I was a little girl that I could see things. Um, and as a little girl, I would just call it I could see a ghost, right? But as I've gone through my journey and been introduced to different people, including my shaman, Holly, who I was going through Reiki training to be certified in Reiki energy healing. And we, my final energy training was at her home. And I walked in her door and she greeted me by putting her hands on my shoulders and said, "Your dad said you would be here today." Never met this woman in my life. And that was what the hell is going on? And she said, "Tiffanie, I know that you have these gifts and you can hear exactly what I hear and you can see exactly what I see. And even more, you have other gifts that I don't even possess. What would you feel? What would it make you feel if you and I started working together to further build your gifts up?" And I said, "Absolutely." And at that point, I just wanted to connect with my dad more. Like, I feel like I missed out on so much of having a relationship with him. If I could just have one more opportunity to talk to my dad, that was the only reason at that point. And that was 3 years ago. And I meet with Holly twice a month. And then she invited me to be a part of a shaman circle to be a medicine woman. And it has been the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I have learned that I can communicate with animals. I have learned that not only can I see things, but I can hear. I can intentionally ask someone else's guides and spirits, as well as my own, "Please talk to me in a way that I can hear and see you." And it's like that. I can tell people, "Hey, I'm going to sleep. I need you to leave me alone. Come back to me at 7:30 in the morning." And they quite literally will. I'm so like targeted on my gifts that it still blows me away. And I think every woman on this planet has these gifts, but we have been programmed to believe that we are crazy, that it's made up, we're dreaming it, we made it up in our head. "Oh, are you sure you didn't hear something else?" Or, like me, from a religious standpoint, you can't believe in God and believe that there is life after death. My own dad would get so angry with me and say, "Do you believe in your God or do you believe in our God?" And that was a part of my spiritual healing, hearing him in the afterlife for the first time saying, "Tiffanie, how could I have ever," he doesn't call me Tiffany, he calls me Tiffy. "Tiffany, how could I have ever known that there was life after death until I got here?" To hear my dad be okay with my gifts, that was, I'm in the right path. And to see women sitting either across from me in my office or across on a computer screen, having tears fall down their face because they feel validated for what they've known in their heart and soul their entire life to be a gift that they possess, and I help them build it, that is like, that takes the cake on healing autoimmunity any day. To feel like you are okay being you. There's nothing wrong with being you. And some people call it shamanism, some people call it psychic, some people call it medium. I don't think I'm a psychic. I don't have, like, I can't tell you that there's going to be an earthquake tomorrow. I don't care to do that. But I can communicate with ancestors that have passed away everyone has spirit guides, a male and a female, and you usually have a team of people that are around you. Sometimes it's relatives, sometimes it's versions of your inner child that you have suppressed. I have a little 7-year-old version of me that is with me all the time because I feel like that is when I stopped being a child. I was forced to grow up. And that's a piece of me that I still take care of, is that 7-year-old version of me. So I hope that answers your question. It's kind of complex, and I believe it 1000%. And we're all meant to be living in healthy bodies that are meant to heal themselves. And that may sound crazy to some people, especially when you've been living a chronic illness and relying on Western medicine and not being open to a blend of East and West and holistic and all of the things. But once you open your mind to anything can heal you, as long as it's good, true, and beautiful, and the intention is pure and positive, there are so many things that can help heal our bodies. And our bodies, we were born to heal ourselves, not medicine. Of course, there's a time and a place. You break your bone, go to the hospital, and they'll give you a cast, whatever it is. But this is powerful work.
I think, Tiffanie, what you just said, we are born to heal ourselves. Sorry, words are hard. I remember the first time after I met with you, the mantra that has stuck with me, and my disclaimer to listeners is that I am a client of Tiffany's, but the mantra that stuck with me after the first time we met was, I have everything I need within me. And like, that has been something I have carried with me throughout my journey since the first time we met. It's just like a reminder that I have everything I need within me. Like, sometimes it's just slowing down and tuning in and figuring out what that actually is that like needs to come up or needs to be supported or acknowledged. I'm curious, Tiffanie, before we wrap up, is there any advice you would give somebody who is battling autoimmunity or Bartonella or trauma? Like, any advice that comes to mind?
Yes. I think whatever you're battling, whether it's a chronic illness or you have a type of co-infection like we all do, whatever it is, autoimmunity, whatever it is, I really encourage you, the listener, to get curious as to what caused it. And I don't mean the cat bit my arm and now I have Bartonella. Why was your body susceptible to that infection? What allowed that infection or that exposure to flourish in your body? There is a weak point, not that the person is weak, but there's something in that body, generally your nervous system, that the nervous system is saying, I don't feel strong and safe enough to fight this. Come on in. And this isn't because I push, not that I push, but that I talk a lot about spinal energetics and energy healing. But that should be a huge part of someone's journey, to allow the body to feel safe to accept whatever they choose to work on themselves with, whether it is a supplement or whether you're using all of the herbs that are back here. Whatever you decide is right for your body, unless your body feels safe and open to accept it, it's not going to work. And everyone has a root cause. And I feel there's so many people that come to me that say, well, I have inflammation. What's causing the inflammation? There's a root cause for that inflammation. Whether it's you have a really poor diet and you're really stressed out and you have leaky gut because of those two things, and your body is releasing inflammatory cytokines, that's the root cause of inflammation for you. But what if it's you feel like you're leading a completely healthy life, but 85% of your childhood was trauma and stress and chronic moving, and you had a hard time making friends, whatever it was. It doesn't mean that you had to have been physically or sexually assaulted. It could have just been you were in a heightened state of awareness all the time. And now your body is catching up with you. Or the other big piece here is the amount of people that come to me and say, I have an autoimmune disease because my grandmother and mother have an autoimmune disease. No, you have an autoimmune disease because you have generational trauma imprinted on your DNA and your RNA, and you are the cycle breaker. Your body is asking you to stop claiming what happened to your mother and her mother and her mother and her mother. They've shown it in rats that if you traumatize a grandmother who has eggs that are then your eggs that your mother carries you with, you are imprinted in that traumatic event. They've shown it about Holocaust survivors, that a child that never was living during that time develops very similar health conditions that the grandmother did because of the trauma that she was imprinted on. So just really encouraging people to get down to why is my body doing this, and not accepting, okay, the doctor says I have lupus and now I have to be on these 5 medications for the rest of my life. Don't stop there. Don't do your body a disservice to tell it that you are not strong enough to get better. And I really encourage people, and this is, I hope, not a shameless plug, whether it's with me or someone else that's a spinal energetics practitioner. Spinal energetics quite literally finds fixations that have been embedded into your visceral tissue from prolonged stress and trauma, whether it's your own or soul generational stuff, and unlocks it to allow energy to freely move where it needs to be dispersed so your nervous system can start feeling safe to heal. So a mind, body, spirit healing protocol will never fail.
I love that. I love that. Where can people find you if they want to follow your journey or if they want to reach out for a consult?
My website is rootedrevivalholistics.com. And I have a podcast, Intentionally Rooted in Healing, that's just starting up. You won't find much in there. I'm starting to share about like different things that have helped me, but I would say my website would be the best way. I offer a free consultation to every single person that reaches out to me, because I don't believe that every person is meant to work with me. I'm very transparent. If I don't feel like I can help you, then I tell you. But there's a lot of knowledge on my website about the different modalities: trapped emotion release, spinal energetics, energy healing. And then if you do want to bring in the intuitive side, I never go into a session and just start sharing information. I can't stop if someone's team or people are communicating with me, but I respect if you don't want to hear it. And then there is just the holistic coaching side of things. If you really just want to get down to maybe reevaluating your diet and receiving meal plans, or you just want to reset your gut or balance your hormones holistically, there's all kinds of things that I can offer that fall in line with the mind, body, spirit aspect.
Yeah. Thank you. And as one of Tiffany's clients, I will say that the sessions that we do, the Soul Star sessions, I find those to be super helpful. And I think that the work you do is super important and super impactful. And I'm very grateful that you were able to join us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm proud of both of you for the work that you do and the knowledge that you share with other people. At the end of the day, I think hope is a really huge thing that can be shared. And if one person feels hope from one episode of yours, that they can maybe make a change in their life, whether it impacts them this much or this much, hope is something that I think our world needs more of. And that's what you guys are doing, is you're shedding light that maybe there's more answers than are out there, and getting inquisitive and curious and hope. So thank you for inviting me. It was really awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to Slice of Lime. We're here to remind you you're not alone, your story matters, and healing is possible. Now be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so send us your questions, stories, or topic suggestions by sliding into our DMs or emailing us at sliceoflimepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, rest when you need to, speak your truth, and keep showing up for yourself.